Howdy folks, Sapper here, aka Sean, and we're bringing you Next War, World War III. I believe this will be part 4. So I don't have too much left in turn 2. So this is turn 2, part 4. Not a whole lot left. I'm almost done. I've got the basic movement and combat phase, and then after that it's pretty much, just maintenance type stuff. So China, they did some movement. Basically, it was just naval movement. There was a little bit of ground movement, because honestly, these clearing markers are kind of. There's a clearing marker here as well. So yeah, the clearing markers are kind of. They're tying everything up. It's keeping me from doing everything that I want to do. But I mean, I think that's the whole point of it, right? So we moved in an amp here. We moved this amp, which was in the Taiwan Straits inshore box. I read the rule wrong, so apparently a PRC naval unit can move from the holding box straight to the map. So I read that wrong, yeah, so I probably slowed myself down and didn't need to. So anyway, we moved this one, we moved this amp, which has got some Marines on it. Now, there also is a rule in I think it's in the series rules that you can only disembark 2 stacking points into a port or a beachhead per turn. So this MSU disembarked last time, and he moved out of the way this turn during the ground movement phase. This MSU disembarked this turn. So these guys, those Marines there, and there's those Marines there. They're waiting their turn, right? Which makes sense, right? A beachhead or a port's only got so much capacity to offload units from a ship or whatever, right? So I mean that kind of makes sense. So we move that MSU out of the way. This one is now disembarked. We're going to move that MSU over there and establish a supply depot at some point in time. So that was the movement phase for the Chinese. Again, there was no combat. I mean, I didn't want to move any of these guys, didn't want to move any of these guys, although I probably should get some of these guys moved so they can get in supply, but I don't want to give up the ground here. So there was really no movement, and I really don't have enough to do any kind of combat that would be favorable to the Chinese. I think the only place that I have would be here to here, and it would be like 1-to-1 odds, and I'm not. And then this is also, that's a city, so you'd have 2 column shifts to the left. It's just not going to happen. And then the Allies, it is their turn for reaction movement. So I did move that surface action group from over there. I'm going to conduct some naval surface combat, but you know what else I forgot to do? I forgot to do the I just focused on the Allied naval movement. I still need to do the Allied ground movement because that's going to be kind of important. Let's see, what do we have? I think that's good. I think I'll leave this the way it is. That way we'll have some guys to fall back. That river will be a good defensive line. I definitely wanted to get these reduced units off the line. So I think these guys are good here for now. These guys are going to be tied up with that clearing marker, so I think, actually, you know what I should do? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. They can't make it, so they only have a movement. Can you see that over there? No, you can't. You can't even see what I'm doing. So these guys have a movement of 4. Highways are considered, because of the refugee situation, highways are considered primary road. Oh, you know what I can do? That's only half a movement point, so we can go 1, 2, 2.5, 3.5. Because, well, actually, I don't think that Zoc counts. So we'll move you into there. So that's definitely a good thing. Let's go ahead and, I really let's get... I'm going to get these guys off the line, at least back into here. I think that's probably a smart move. Because I want to get that headquarters up, but I don't want to leave this open to airdrops, even though I know at the moment Chinese don't have any airborne units available because they're all tied up right there. But we will go ahead and do 1, 2. We'll do that, and then that way we can move this guy here. So I think that's good for red. Let's go over here and look and see what we've got in the middle here. What can we do with yellow? Yellow doesn't have a lot of units. I think they're good. I think I'm going to leave yellow pretty much where they're at. I want to keep guys here at the Formosa Plastics and those guys there at that port. So I don't want to move those. I can move these blue guys. I don't, or blue, 8th Corps. I think I'll leave these guys here for now. I'll wait to see kind of what develops, if they're going to be needed over here. But again, I don't want to leave this undefended for any possible amphibious attacks, and assaults, or airborne assaults. Now I know that there can't be another amphibious until that beachhead that's over here is removed. There's only one beachhead counter for the Chinese, and you're limited by that, right? So you can only have one beachhead at a time. So there's still a beachhead there. So I know they can't do an amphibious assault. You can without a beachhead, but those units will soon be out of supply and done. So you have to have the beachhead if you want any kind of chance of success. So what we have is we've got these guys here. Let's go ahead and clean that up a little bit. So that goes there. So basically we have these dudes here. So those highways are now primary. Yeah, I think I can get there. So each one of those is... Yeah, those are half a movement point. So I'll have no problem getting anywhere I need to go. Now, the question is, do I form a defense line on this side of the river? Or... Do I get some guys in here to help with that port? Because that's where the Marines are pushing to. I think I need to do that. Well, I can only get one guy in there. Let's get the stronger of the two. So let's see. That will be 1, 2. That's not going to work. What is... secondary? Primary road becomes secondary road because of the refugees, and it turns it into 1 movement point. So I have 6 movement points. So that's 1, 2, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. I should be able to do that because the Zoc is kind of negated by that guy. I think I can do that. So we're going to say I can do that. So we'll move you here. And then we'll kind of move this guy here. And that'll leave him some flexibility to do things just in case, you know, whatever happens. So there we go. So that is the reaction movement done. I've already moved the ship because I got, you know, I did the naval already. And now I'm not going to do any combat with, although I probably could do combat here. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I can. So I'm looking at over here. I think I might be able to do a decent attack right here. I've got the headquarters that can support. I do have a little bit of air power that can support. Let's look and see what the odds are. So that's 8 defense. The city doesn't count because they're under a clearing marker. So that is 8. It looks like I have. So that's 8. And that is 7. So that's 15 to 8. So that's not quite 2-to-1, but I can get 2-to-1 with that helicopter, that headquarters. That'll give me, what did I say, 15? That'll give me 19-to-8, so that'll give me 2-to-1 with a remainder. And that's in rough. Let's look at, oop, wrong one. Got the wrong card. That's always the problem, is there's a lot of cards. There we go. So that's 2-to-1 in rough, which puts me here. Again, see, here's the problem, is we have those, that's not, I don't know if that's what I want to do. That's just, the odds just aren't lining up for me. I've been forgetting to do cyber. I can do cyber, which would give me a column shift. Yep, I can do cyber. That's only going to give me one column shift at best. I think it would be just safer. I'm going to play it safe and not attack, even though I really want to. So now we're going to go ahead and do a naval surface combat. So I'm kind of awaiting a response on the naval surface combat. I'm unclear as to whether it's kind of a one-sided affair, right? Like, so it's the reaction combat. So that's naval surface combat. The rules kind of, it looks like if I attack this SAG with this SAG, I should be able, I think the rules kind of look at it and say that you can counterattack. I'm uncertain about that. But we're going to play it as they do get to counterattack. So basically, naval surface combat is handled kind of like a strike. So, So we're going to use this, you do undetected units first. So that SAG right there, this SAG here is undetected. So he gets to shoot first, basically. So it's a naval 1. So we use this column. And then we look at any DRMs, which there are none. So it's a naval 1. So basically we need to roll a 4 or lower. And that's a 7, so that's not good enough. So now what happens is that guy is point detected now. So now, according to the rules, it says undetected naval units simultaneously declare any previously detected naval unit as their target, resolve their fire, and are marked as point detected. So we just did that. He was undetected. Now, 2 says previously detected naval units simultaneously declare any detected naval unit as their target, resolve their fire, and are marked as point detected. And then that's it. So let's look here. Let's just put here to mark him, he has fired. So now, and it's 10 hexes, right? On this display, these guys can fire at any ship that's been detected within 10 hexes. So now, the way I interpret the rules is these 2 can fire back at either him or him, because now he's detected, right? He's fired his missiles, it's going to generate a lot of smoke, and they also have these ballistic computers which can detect counter battery. They can use the telemetry and figure out where the shot came from. So now detected guys, so according to the rules, so detected ships now fire simultaneously. So all 3 of these, it's going to be simultaneous fire. So let's go ahead and, so that tells me that since it's simultaneous, any effects will be applied at the same time. So being hit's not going to give you a disadvantage. So we'll go ahead and do the other Taiwan ship. So basically we need to roll a 4 or lower. And we got a 4 exactly, which is a strike 1. We were going after that one. So he gets a strike 1. Now these guys get to fire back. They get to use the naval 2 because they have the 2s. So they get to use the naval 2, and these guys are point detected, so there is a DRM for point detection. And so there you go, the strike marker on a naval unit. So that would give this guy a +1, but since it says it's simultaneous, doesn't happen. So we get -1. Both of these ships will target one ship. They'll target actually this one that's closer to the shore. So we get 2 attacks at -1 each. Let's see here. So that's a 3, and that's a 5. So that's 2 strike 1s. All right, so according to this card, so a surface action group, if you get a strike 1, you may retreat to the nearest friendly port, or you suffer the strike 1. The first one, I will actually put the strike 1 on there, and then when you have a strike 1, if you get another strike 1, it turns into a strike 2. So you may retreat or add a strike 2. I think I will put the strike 1 on it, and then I will retreat to the nearest friendly port, which will be probably that one right there. So that's kind of the way I see it. So this guy goes here. He's got a strike 1. And he's done. These guys, he's going to stay. He's going to keep that strike 1, and he's going to stay. These guys are now point detected. And that is my understanding of naval surface combat. So that is the reaction combat segment. I wasn't going to do ground combat, so that will wrap things up. Now we will go ahead and do the isolation and surrender, reorg, reinforcement, and victory, and then we'll start turn 3. So let me figure out what's going on with all that. I don't think anybody's going to be isolated. We do have out of supply guys, but they're not surrounded. So they're not technically 100% cut off from this. So they're not really considered isolated. But let me find out. All right, so nobody is isolated because you have to be basically completely surrounded to be isolated. So nobody's isolated. So that is step 13. Nothing happens. Reorg phase. So rotate all helicopters to reflect no missions. All right, let's go ahead and do that. I don't have a whole lot of helicopters. Yep, I think there's only 4 total on the board. And unfortunately, I didn't use them, right? That's like not a judicious use of the assets that have been given to me. But I used the Chinese ones. I didn't really use the allies. Return air units in the air superiority box. I'm just going to go ahead and do all that, and then I'll get back, because otherwise you guys don't want to hear that nonsense. Okay, let's conduct some clearing operations. So I've gotten to that step. I'll cover... So I did a little bit of rebasing operations. Let's cover that. So I've taken care of moved all the special forces guys back into the available box. I've moved all the planes into so the flown guys went to the ready box. The aborted guys went to the flown box, with I think one exception. One guy on the Chinese side rolled good. Rolled that 0, which you can see right there, which puts them in here. And I did the same for the allies. These 4 planes were based in Japan, so I rebased them so they go to wherever it is they want to go, but they're in the flown box now because they're medium range, and medium range in Japan does not get them to Taiwan. So I wanted to get these guys to Taiwan so they can start doing work, right? Especially that Wild Weasel. We got that A-10, which is great for close air support, and just a couple more planes in general. So that'll be next turn, they'll be ready. And then, it's something that I overlooked in the rules, but a carrier air wing consists of, what is that? An F-18F, an F-18E. So 2 Fs, an E, and a wild weasel. So I didn't have that wild weasel on that carrier, so now I put him in there. So again, just little things that you miss. So that's it for that. So now we'll conduct the clearing operations. So we'll go ahead and start with this one first. All right, so efficiency rating. So you subtract that number from the efficiency rating. So we have efficiency ratings of 6 on both of those. I think you do have to declare a lead unit. They're both the same, so it doesn't matter. So for clearing, you want to roll high. Again, that's another one of my gripes with the game, right? Like, so when we're doing combat and we're looking at the CRT, we want to roll low. When we're doing strikes, we want to roll low. And now in clearing operations, for some strange reason, we have to roll high. I wish there was, just stay consistent. Either all roll over or roll under. It doesn't matter to me. Pick one, but let's not flip back and forth. So 6 minus 4 is 2, so that's a +2. So again, positive modifiers here are good and negative modifiers are bad. Minimum safe stacking points for city, which that is underneath these guys. So you can see there, minimum safe stacking points are 3. We have 4 stacking points. I think you can only get negatives out of that, so if I had less stacking points, then that would be bad, but I have more, so you don't get a positive modifier for that, unfortunately. Additional installations, there are no additional installations. Stack includes leg plus armor and or mech. No, it's all mechanized, so I don't get a +1 for that. And I think that's it. Yep, so that's it. So we need to roll higher than that 4 right there, but I get a +2, so have a pretty decent chance of succeeding, and that is definitely a success. So that goes away. And we will put that there, and we will get, I think, 2 VPs for that. I don't remember. I know towns are not worth much, but the cities are worth a little bit more. Yeah, cities are +2 victory points. So we'll go ahead and do that. Now we can start launching, we can start working on that spot right there. And then I will increase my VPs this turn by +2. And then we will go to that hex right there. So we got lucky and got a 4 on that. You want low numbers for these clearing chits. So there is an installation here. Yep. So, but it's not a city. So it's an installation. So again, efficiency rating. These guys are out of supply, I believe. Out of supply decreases your efficiency by 1. Yeah, so out of supply decreases your efficiency rating by 1. We will go ahead and we'll use one of these guys as the lead unit. So his efficiency rating is a 5. We are better than the 4 by 1, so that's a +1, which again is good. +1. We meet the minimum safe stacking points because it's just an installation, so you have to have at least 2. There are 3 stacking points in there, so that is good. There is an installation, so that is a -1. And I think that's it. So I don't get any bonuses for the combined arms. Yep, so it looks like we're good. So it's a straight up roll. I need to roll higher than a 4. Let's see what we get. And of course we didn't. So If the clearing operation fails and the stacking points are not present, the clearing player takes a step loss from the lead unit. Otherwise, there is no effect. So basically, there is no effect, which that's not good. So we'll put that there. That stays. I kind of wanted that one to get cleared because that's going to affect me trying to get this port right here. I really want that port, and I can't do it because of that. All right. So that is it for clearing operations. It's still the reorg phase. I have removed all the interdiction markers and all the strike one markers. Ships, something that it's again, you read the rules over time and like you digest things that, the more you see it, the more you digest it. And the case doesn't happen very often, but ships cannot remove strike markers unless they're in a friendly port. So that's something that I did not know. I think I've always been kind of just removing, following the reorg phase sequence that says remove strike one markers, and I think I've always done that with ships, and now I read it, hey, they got to be in a friendly port to do that. So this SAG that was here that got the strike from the naval surface combat, he is in a friendly port, so I removed strike one. These guys, they do not. Now I am going to, you can spend supply points to repair ADF tracks and installations. I think I'm going to try to repair that bridge right there. Actually, you know what? Which one will be better? Actually, both of those I need to try to repair. So, we'll see how it goes. I might, if one of them fails, I'll probably try to resupply the other one. Let's do this one right here. I think that one is the more important one of the two. So we're going to try to repair that. So we look at our handy dandy bridge repair and construction. I wish they put in the rule number on there. It's on the sequence of play card, but it's always good to have stuff on there too. And then also it doesn't say that it costs you 1 supply point. So there are no enemies adjacent to either sides of those bridges, so there is no +2 to the die roll. So basically I need to roll a 6 or less. So we'll start there. If that one fails, then I'll... Oh, and you also have to be within 4 motorized movement points of a headquarters. So even with the refugees, these are... I think a highway is... Yeah, highway becomes primary road, which is a half a movement point. So that is half 1, half 2. So that's 2 movement points. So that headquarters is able to provide the logistical support and other equipment or whatever the case may be. So I need to roll a 6 or lower. So let's see what happens. And we got a 9. So that failed. That stinks. So I still use the supply point. I will go ahead and try it again with this one up here. And that's a 5. So we will go ahead and repair that one bridge. So that's good. It did cost me 2 supply points. So that has been done. I think that was it. It's all I needed to do for the reorg. I can't think of anything else that I needed to do. So we will move on to the reinforcement and replacement phase. Let me go ahead and get that, figure out what I'm getting, and then I'll kind of figure out where it goes from there. All right, so we're doing the replacement and reinforcement right now. So basically, I use the supplement 2 revised Chinese order of battle. So this is what China gets. The allies are getting this. They get 2 random reserve units. So you just throw all the reserve units in a cup and you just draw 2 of them and go from there. So let's see what we get. So there's 1. That's good. Red is good. And we get a blue one. So that's not so good. So obviously the red ones have to go anywhere to the right of this line. And then the blue ones have to go anywhere to the left of that line. So that's kind of the way that works. Now, the reinforcement schedule says for turn 1, we use D. However, we are not using all of this. Like the 82nd Airborne Division's not coming in. We're not getting the air mobile points. Japan is not getting the surface action group because the intervention levels are too low. So the U.S. is providing naval and air and supplies, intel, and special forces. Japan is only providing supplies, intel, and special forces. So we get the supply point. We will get, that's where you see here, you see the A-10 and the B-52 is some other rule. So if you look here, Next War Taiwan GSR 17.23 should always be used at no cost. So again, some more revisions. You know, you find this stuff sometimes after the fact. So that's why we're getting the planes and the special forces, but we're not getting the 82nd. We're not getting, you know, any of that stuff yet. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to bring in, and I'll cover that in a little bit. I'm going to bring in Next War Korea now because the Chinese have been talking to the Koreans, so we want to. The Koreans are going to be a giant distraction for the Chinese, right? So that's what's going to end up happening. So I've got to get all that set up. So it's definitely going to take a little bit, but I need to just place all these. Obviously, these guys go in the holding boxes. Well, this guy's going to go in the special. This guy's going to go in the special forces box. These guys will go in the Chinese holding boxes. These guys, I believe, this will go in a special forces box. These guys, I believe, go to, well, he goes to Guam because they're unlimited. These go to Japan. And then I'll place the 2 reserves wherever they go. And then I'll start getting Next War Korea set up. All right, so I took a little bit of time to start doing this international posture matrix so I can figure out the intervention levels for other possible countries as the war here in the Pacific as it starts to escalate. You know, I wanted to just kind of randomly figure out, you know, who's going to jump in, right? Who wants to get a little bit of the action? So it took me a little bit to figure out the international posture matrix, which is actually on the Next War Taiwan advanced game charts and tables. And then I kind of wrote my results down here. So what you do is for each faction, so there's 3, each country is governed by each one of these factions, right? So you have the administrative wing of the government, the military wing, which is the people, right? So you roll a die and you kind of figure out where they sit. So basically, so for the United Kingdom, they rolled low on all of them, so they're very dovish, right? They don't want to get involved in any kind of conflict, especially, I mean, you know, it's on the other side of the world, right? So they are passive. France ended up being moderate, which, you know, kind of makes sense. France has a lot of old ties to Southeast Asia. Australia, I gave them a +1 to every die roll they made for each one of these factions because, well, Australia is in the Pacific, right? So they're the ones that stand to possibly, you know, lose the most. So they ended up being moderate. Canada, surprisingly enough, was hawkish. You know, Canada's America's neighbor, so we can apply a little bit of diplomatic pressure to that. So they ended up being aggressive. And then Germany ended up being moderate. And then for other Europe, which is basically all these guys, right? You have Italy, Spain, Denmark, Netherlands, Belgium, and Sweden. These are all from Next War Poland. I just decided to lump all of those together into Europe Other because they're all very small countries. This is the counter mix that they would be contributing. So what I would do is if they end up getting involved, then I would probably just figure out which one of the countries does it, right? I wouldn't have all of them contribute all of their stuff. But I'll figure that out if it happens. So these are the other countries that could possibly be involved. The Netherlands are kind of realistic because they had there's a lot of involvement with them in Southeast Asia. I think Belgium too had involvement in Southeast Asia. So now, how do I figure out if they're going to get involved? So I'll do the UN die roll for each one of these, and I will apply the modifier. You have to roll greater than 10 to increase. So all of these guys are at intervention level 0 right now, which means they're not doing anything. But should I roll a 10 or higher, then I will increase their intervention level by 1. And then, of course, each turn, I'll go ahead and roll. And, maybe I'll have random things that, like, okay, if a certain thing happens, then they automatically bump up their intervention level. Or if there's nothing crazy happens, then I'll roll again to see if they increase their intervention level. So that's kind of the way it's going to go. So if we look, the scenario for that I'm playing is the tactical surprise. So then I would look at their national posture. Well, this chart kind of does it, but so it would give a +2. Like, for example, if I'm doing United Kingdom, which has a passive posture, I would look here, and so the resolution is +2. Then I would add that to the -3, so a -1. So if I roll a 10 or higher, I can't roll a 10. So United Kingdom's not going to get involved. But as time goes by, they probably would get involved. So I think the best chance for anybody to get involved would be Canada, because they randomly decided they wanted to be hawkish on everything. I would think that Australia would kind of fall in line, but they don't. But anyway, that's kind of how I'm doing it. It may or may not be the right answer, but hey, that's the way I'm going to do it. So I've gotten everything, I think, set up. I think I set up the one reserve here. I set up the other reserve here that I got. I've placed all the planes where they go. I've got all the Chinese units in the China holding box. So pretty much everything is done for Taiwan. Let's go ahead and roll for, I think, what did I say? You have to roll a 10 or higher. Let's see, France is moderate on the tactical surprise, so they would get a +1. And this is just to increase. Now, don't pay attention to the Japanese or the U.S. levels, but so they're going to get a +1 to the die roll. So basically, they have to roll a 9 to see if France gets involved. Very close. They did not do it. Germany is moderate, so we again have to roll a 9 or better. So Germany decides to not get involved at this point in time. The other European countries have a -2. They cannot possibly get involved. Australia cannot get involved, and Canada has so they are aggressive. You know what? I think that's just for the resolution. So we'll just go straight up die roll. So Canada has a +3. So Canada decides they want to get involved. So I'll pull out the Canada chits, and they will. Well, actually, so Canada is only going to be at intervention level 1, which only consists of supplies, intel, and special forces. So basically what will happen is I'll find the Canadian special forces markers, and then the Allies will get one more electronic detection attempt during the electronic detection phase. So that's basically what that means. So Canada is now at intervention level 1, so I can kind of go ahead and, where's my pencil? So Canada is at 1. There we go. And then, of course, the other Pacific players, I will pull those in. I'll probably do something very similar. Of course, there's also triggers that automatically pull them in. I think, for example, So these, if I have these on the naval display over there, that means if something happens in those areas, hey, I need to check the rules and figure out what happens. I believe if Japan gets attacked with cruise missiles or anything like that, it automatically bumps up their intervention level to 4. And it would probably be something very similar over that way. And I'll have to look up the intervention levels for Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, what have you. But I'll do that probably at the end of turn 3. So there you go. I'm going to go ahead and get things set up for next war, Korea, because they're getting pulled into the conflict.